U.S. Attorney Jonathan Fahey and former Chief Nominations Counsel for the Senate Judiciary Committee, Mike Davis. Welcome back to both of you. All right, I want to start with something that Andy McCarthy, our colleague, said today, a former federal prosecutor himself. Here's what he says about the odds this affidavit gets unsealed.
I don't think in the middle of an investigation, a judge is going to release a warrant which would identify not only what their grounds were for seeking the warrant, but would probably tell at least the Trump people enough so that they would know who the informants were.
Mike, he's talking there about the things underlying the warrant. The hearing happens tomorrow. How soon do you think we'll have a decision, and is there any chance we get a look at the affidavit?
Under a normal case, this affidavit would remain sealed, but this is not any normal case. This is an unprecedented, unnecessary, unlawful home raid of a former president, and it was authorized by a magistrate judge who just recused himself from Trump's lawsuit versus Hillary Clinton 7 weeks ago. And he has a 2017 Facebook post personally criticizing President Trump's integrity. So he should have not decided this case. He should have recused under the U.S. Code and Canon 2 and 2A of the judicial canon. So this is a highly unusual case. The government is selectively leaking from this affidavit to hurt President Trump. They're also illegally leaking material from the grand jury. We saw in a Newsweek article about a week ago that they're illegally leaking that the grand jury found that President Trump was in violation of the law. So this is an unusual case. President Trump is asking for the affidavit to be released. They can redact sources and methods. They can get this out there.
Okay, so much of what you said gets to this point that Professor Jonathan Turley was making in a tweet. Wednesday, he said, it is the leaking from the Justice Department that's fueling speculation. While Garland says that he's deeply concerned about people questioning the integrity of his department, he has done little to quell such speculation or to address these concerns. So, Jonathan, does that then go to the heart of the argument, the government saying we can't release this information, it is too specific, we've got a criminal investigation going on, and yet there are leaks coming from within the department? Would that sway the judge one way or the other about keeping this affidavit under wraps or unsealing it?
I think it's a very persuasive argument because they're in there saying this can't be released, it will reveal the investigation, but we still want to be able to leak selectively to advance our narrative, and it really is an untenable argument. And I expect the judge will be fairly frustrated with them. And Mike's point about not only leaking information about the investigation, but leaking grand jury material, which is a violation of Rule 6E. Somebody should ask the Justice Department about this, because did they authorize these leaks? And if not, what are they doing about it? But the irony of this whole thing is they're saying these documents had to be retrieved from Donald Trump because he couldn't be trusted with them because they're so sensitive. And yet this sensitive investigation, the people working on it can't be trusted to not release the sensitive information. I think there's a lot of irony there, but I think the judge will be frustrated by this. And the other thing is, they have to give a reason, not just it will hurt the case, but how long does it need to be sealed? Because there is a public interest, which is heightened in this case because of the nature of it.
So a number of media outlets have pressed and filed motions to get this thing moving. Also, Judicial Watch, they filed their final reply with the judge before that hearing tomorrow. They filed tonight. Here's what it said. The public interest in the contents of the affidavit cannot be understated. The secrecy surrounding the search warrant and the affidavit that led to its issuance has caused the nation to convulse with intrigue and harmful speculation that will only increase the longer the truth is kept from the public. The heat must be replaced with light, and soon. Mike.
I agree completely. This is an unprecedented home raid of a former president, and they need to get out there with this affidavit as quickly as possible. This is President Trump is asking for this to be released. There's no reason this judge should not release this affidavit tomorrow.
Okay, so I want to circle back to something that Matt Finn had in his reporting. This is from Andrew Weissman of the Mueller investigation. He tweeted this Tuesday. He said, unsurprising that Trump, as the target of a criminal investigation, wants a roadmap of that investigation in order to obstruct it, which is exactly the stated reason why DOJ opposes releasing the sealed affidavit. So, Jonathan, to that point, so often that's why an affidavit is not released at this point, because somebody who could potentially end up as a defendant will see exactly how the case is being built. Is that not a strong argument against keeping it secret for now?
Yeah, that's a very strong argument in most cases, but most cases don't have the heightened public interest, and most cases don't have what the DOJ has been doing, which is selectively leaking information about the case to advance their political narrative. But ordinarily, safety of witnesses, ongoing investigation are certainly valid concerns. But another thing about this is, which is interesting, what we've all been hearing about this initially was this was just to get the documents back. Well, they have the documents back, so why do they need to keep it sealed? And the judge should ask them, how long is this investigation going to take? Because this doesn't seem overly complicated, although there's a lot of issues to it, but factually it really doesn't, at least my understanding, based on the leaks.
Yeah, and listen, there's so much we don't know. It's all in that affidavit. I talked to Laura Trump about this today and said, you know, you guys were cooperating early June, and then the next you hear, according to them, is early August, you have this raid. So something happened in the interim that enabled this, the FBI to go and get this warrant. It's based on this affidavit. And I asked her if they're worried, if there's a risk in getting that thing pushed and released, that there's something in there that they may not want the public to know about. She says, we don't have anything to worry about. But, Mike, there are some quickly who say it is a risk.
Well, remember, the Attorney General leaked out that he deliberated 4 weeks on this on this decision whether to order this home raid. If it took weeks to deliberate, what was so sensitive that Trump had? Did he have the nuclear documents like they said? Did he have the launch codes? What did he possibly have that was so serious that you ordered this unprecedented home raid of a former president? But you had time, you had weeks to wait to decide to do that.
Well, here's hoping that we get a lot more information in the days to come, and it all kicks off with that hearing, which we'll cover here on Fox tomorrow afternoon. Mike and Jonathan, thank you so much for your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you.